Hello! Today we're going to do simple probability, and I'm going to use the Glencoe Algebra 1 book in case you want to follow along with some of the sample problems. So let's get into it. So what is probability? Well, probability is the ratio of the number of favorable outcomes for the event to the number of total possible outcomes. So let's say we had 12 cards, and we want to know the probability of picking, say, 2 cards. So the 2 cards would be our favorable outcomes because that's what we want to pick, and the 12 cards would be the total number of outcomes because that's how many cards that we have. So how we would do the probability is that we would do favorable outcomes, the 2, on top of the total number of outcomes, which is the 12. So the probability is 2 over 12. We can also simplify by dividing the numerator and denominator by 2 and getting 1/6. So the probability is 2/12 or 1/6. And the all possible outcomes, so the 12 in this case, is also known as the sample space. And the sum of probabilities for any two complementary events is 1. So what is a complementary event? So we said that we wanted to, for this example, pick 2 cards out of a total of 12 cards. So a complementary event would be not picking 2 cards. So picking every other card except for those 2 cards. So it would have been 10 over 12 because here our favorable outcomes was 2 cards, but the complementary to that would be the other 10 cards. And that's why if you do 10 over 12 plus 2 over 12, you would get 12 over 12, or 1. And that's why when you have complementary events, the total probability is always going to be 1. So here are some examples of calculating probability. So, if a bowl contains 5 red chips, 7 blue chips, 6 yellow chips, and 10 green chips, and 1 chip is randomly drawn, what is the probability of drawing a blue chip? Well, remember, probability is number of favorable outcomes over the total number of outcomes. So the total number of outcomes here would be the number of chips in the bowl. So since there's 5 red plus 7 blue plus 6 yellow plus 10 green, you would get 28 as a total number of chips. So that would be number of possible outcomes. And then favorable outcomes, we want to see the chance of picking blue. So since there's 7 blue chips, it would be 7 over 28. Or if you simplify, divide numerator and denominator by 7, you get 1/4. So the probability for drawing a blue chip is 1/4. Well, what's the probability of drawing a red or yellow? Well, since there's 5 red and 6 yellow, we already know the total number is 28. The probability would just be 13 over 28. Now here's an interesting one. What's the probability of drawing anything but a green? So we know that there's 10 green chips and there's a total of 28. So if we subtracted 28 minus 10, we would get 18 chips that aren't green. So our number of favorable outcomes is 18, and the total number of chips is 28, so it's 18 over 28. And again, if you want to simplify, divide numerator and denominator by 2, you get 9 over 14. That's the probability of drawing not a green. Now that we've gone over a few examples, why don't you try these problems? I'm going to go over it on the next slide. So take a minute, read it, dissect it, find the answers, and join me on the next slide. For the first question, the probability would be 1/6 because your chances of choosing a 4 are 1 and there's 6 different numbers on the die. So favorable outcomes over total number of outcomes, 1/6. For the second problem, the probability is 0 because remember, the spinner has numbers from 1 to 12. So if you want to choose a 13, it's not even there, which is why it's 0 because there's no chance of you getting your favorable outcome. For the third problem, actually, the probability would be 1/3 because there's 100 dimes in total and you're trying to choose a dime, and if you add up all the different types of coins, there's 300 coins. So the number of favorable outcomes 100 over the number of total outcomes 300, simplify, and you get 1/3. For the fourth one, it's actually 5/6. So here, you don't want to choose the dollars. So you subtract the dollars from the total to get 250 because remember there's $50, 300 minus 50, 250, which is your number of favorable outcomes. And the total number of outcomes is still 300. So if you simplify, you get 5/6. And for the last question, the probability is 1/2 because the probability of getting quarters or nickels, if you add the two types of coins up, is 150. There's still 300 coins in total, so if you simplify, you get 1/2. So I hope that makes sense and you got the concept.